No, I don't know why the time isn't clicking. There we go. Good day, ladies and gentlemen. Wayne Elliott here, back for the Health and Wellness Show. Airs weekly on the Truth Be Told radio network at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. My pleasure to be with you today, as always. And yeah, I'm grateful to be here. I'm grateful to be feeling better. I've been, if you've watched or listened in the last couple of shows, I've been battling first COVID and then myocarditis, and those symptoms of the inflamed heart, boy, the high blood pressure, the irregular heartbeat, wildly irregular, I must say. Uh, so I had an interesting couple of weeks, but I was reading up this morning, and I'm doing quite well now. My blood pressure is normal, really, most of the time, which I'm thrilled about. My arrhythmia is settling down, indeed. It's not 100% regular yet, but it's coming, and I continue to take heavy doses of the Strauss kidney, the cardio calm, and the cardio support rather, and the Strauss heart drops, and just so pleased. Really, it's the second time in my life that they've really helped me and helped me get out of trouble. But it was interesting. I was reading about blood pressure this morning, and I'd read years ago, and I've heard many things, of course, and it's either your heart or your kidneys that is the culprit. It can be both, I guess, but it's they're the two places there where we develop issues and have high blood pressure. Sometimes with me, it was the kidneys, almost 30 years ago, and we've learned it can be bacteria in the kidneys as well. One of the ingredients in the Strauss kidney formula is the golden seal root, which is a strong natural antibiotic herb. And so the kidney did me well so many years ago, and I sure have been on it now these past few weeks and doing well again. But I was interested to currently learn more about blood pressure and what the conventional wisdom on that is. They're basically saying that, and there's a little bit of difference too, depending on who you read, but that good blood pressure is 120 over 70, 120 over 80, but in that range. What was interesting, they said no matter what age, if your blood pressure was 180 over 120, then you need to contact emergency help and be looked at by a physician or physicians. 180 over 120, that would be very high blood pressure. Interesting that they said, now I'm in my 70th year, so I read about someone who's 70 years old, and they say notwithstanding the good blood pressure is 120 over 70 or 80, they were saying that the range for people 70 uh, could be as high as uh, 150 over 85, I think they said, or over 90. And I always thought that it would be strange to expect our grandmother to have the same blood pressure as her 16-year-old grandson or granddaughter athlete. It that didn't ever make complete sense to me. And these readings that I was on yesterday morning and this morning indicated that we can expect some increase in our blood pressure. They also, and you can Google this yourself and find out a lot of this information. They listed some foods and drinks that appear to be not good for our blood pressure, and salt, of course, led the list. And some things that can be good for our blood pressure, things like beet juice and lemons and uh, some other things. As I say, you can Google them, but um, they call it the silent killer because we don't necessarily have any symptoms, don't necessarily have any headaches or any other feelings. What I've always thought over these 30 years that I've become a natural health advocate, I'm always a bit disturbed when I see someone that has very uneven skin color. And most often, and I always think that geez, I'll bet they have blood pressure issues. When you see people with red, patchy skin, they have areas that are very red, very different color. So it's an uneven color. I think that's one sign. And a friend that actually was at my home on Saturday and saw me testing my blood pressure. He asked if I would test his, and I always suspected he'd have high blood pressure because he has this very uneven skin color on his face. And sure enough, his blood pressure was very high. My friend's was 174 over 100, I believe. Now that's getting up there, and I was grateful that he accepted some natural products and is taking them. I checked with him this morning to help with these things. You know, Jim Strauss always said, "If you're not made from it, it cannot fix you." And I guess that's the reason. And the pharmaceutical companies don't claim that they fix anything, but they do deal with symptoms. If they did fix you, of course, if they fixed a problem, you would get to quit taking them. The doctor would say, "Mrs. Smith, your blood pressure is great. You can stop taking the medication." I have never heard of that happening. So it really does. The pharmaceuticals tend to deal with the symptoms, which sometimes are the aggravating part of an ailment. But I was very interested in the reading I was doing. I'd always known that we should expect our blood pressure, if it's going to be higher, to be high in the morning, through the night, and first thing in the morning. The thing I learned today is we're best to take our blood pressure before eating or drinking anything in the morning. I have been not doing that. I've been drinking, taking my supplements, drinking my lemon water, make a cup of coffee, and then I've sat down and taken my blood pressure. So tomorrow will be different. I'll be taking my blood pressure first to see if there's a difference. And I've never taken my in my life, never really taken my blood pressure first thing in the morning. I just had always heard that, and they say don't take it immediately after working out. I was surprised to read that in strenuous exercise and workouts, our blood pressure can go as high as 200 over 100. I was pretty surprised at that. So just a bit of information. One of the things I love about life is that every day I learn something. If it's not about health, it's about something else. I'm a recycler and environmentalist, and I just love that we get the opportunity to learn every day. Now I'm going to introduce and say hello to my good friend and maybe the most learned person I know when it comes to nutrition and health. He certainly is a wealth of information, and has studied longer than any human being I know over all these years. That's Dr. Michael Garko, who is with us from Tampa, Florida. Dr. Garko, how are you today?
I'm good, thank you. It's an opportunity to be on your show again. I always welcome it. Enjoy the interaction. Enjoy the possibility of being able to um, educate and help others on their own journey. We all have our own journey. So I was listening to you very carefully about high blood pressure, and your remarks are right on point. It is the silent killer. It has earned that reputation because, as you indicated, it does not signal any warning signs or symptoms, especially during its early stages of development. Now, later on, once it's full blown, that you certainly can sometimes tell. You will feel the pressure, headache, you'll have a headache and whatnot. But consequently, many individuals, Wayne, go undiagnosed and then become at risk for a heart attack or stroke, the
Yeah.
two leading causes of death. So your points are well taken.
Doc, I had when I was really struggling a couple of weeks ago with the blood pressure. It's really only in the last few days it's come down to normal for the most part. Um, there were several times where I did have a headache. Now it wasn't a terrible, sharp or pounding headache, but I did notice it, and so I can confirm that a headache can be one of the signs.
Sure. You
I
have the
don't get a lot of headaches. I'm
yeah.
lucky. Some people
Hmm.
suffer them more regularly, but um, and it also, of course, and we learned this, Doc, through not so many years ago with children when they had, I think it was eight to 14-year-old children with high blood pressure, which in the old days, if it happened, it was pretty rare because our mothers were always chasing us out of the house to get out from under their feet and play. And me and even my sons, we had to come in when the street lights came on. So we were very active. A lot of young people are less active today, and when they took these fairly inactive children, 8 to 14 years old, they had them go outside for an hour a day, Doc, in this study. They could play on the swings, they could kick a ball, run, skip rope, do anything, but they had to be outside and be active, not sitting down. And uh, almost miraculously, in short order, their blood pressures went down to a normal level. So inactivity is not our friend, and that includes with high blood pressure. Wouldn't you agree?
Yes, absolutely. That's true. I do agree. Um, it's the headache. Uh, when you have a headache, it's tracing back because the blood pressure is high. You got to remember you got carotid arteries, one on the left, one on the right.
Yeah,
These are directly connected, to they go to the brain. And so you have this pressure that's building up. If the pressure, the heart's pumping hard, and if those carotid arteries, for example, have plaque in them, it's even harder for the blood to get through that artery. So it's more
sure.
pressure. I mean, it makes sense. You don't need to have a PhD to appreciate that. So the headache with a carotid, how can I put it? A high blood pressure carotid artery type of headache.
Yeah,
The headache will progressively worsen, or it will be sudden and severe. It'll be like a thunderclap headache. All
yeah,
of a sudden, boom, you have a headache, and the blood pressure is probably pretty high. And see, those are signs, or at least symptoms that something is wrong. But
yeah,
you made a point about children. Do you know, and I think I mentioned this on your show before, at least a couple of times, we have children who are on high blood pressure medications.
yeah,
Children. I
yeah,
mean, this is unprecedented.
yeah,
Truly. I mean, I'm not saying that lightly. This is unprecedented, and it's connected to the obesity epidemic among children. And they're having all these metabolic disorders associated with the obesity. So they're already developing heart disease, in that when they look at the arteries of these kids, they'll look and they'll see what they call fatty streaks in the arteries. That's the beginning of damage to the artery and the plaquing that's going to happen over time. So this is crazy. I never
yeah,
thought I've been doing this a long time. And when I first started, I wasn't reporting on children taking blood pressure medications and cholesterol medications. These are the medications for middle-aged people in life, who are in the middle of life, not for kids who are just beginning their life,
yeah,
Wayne.
yeah. The as soon as you said the carotid arteries, I thought back, Doc, and another sign of real trouble. I guess they fear stroke. I was in Cleveland with my wife. That's her hometown. About 10 or 12 years ago, family reunion the next day. And we were in the grocery store one evening picking up the supplies for what my wife was going to make for the dinner, the potluck dinner. And my eyes, uh, hard to describe, but they went funny, like they were moving on their own back and forth. And I
Mm,
told my
mm,
wife, I don't feel right. And
mm.
we got out of the store, got our goods, got out of the store, went home, and she was driving, and I went right up to bed, and I had to close my eyes because it was the nothing hurt, but it was just the weirdest thing that my eyes wouldn't settle. It was like they were moving back and forth like that. So when I got home, I told the doctor. He made me an appointment with a vascular surgeon, and it was 7 months here in Canada to get that appointment. And I thought to myself, I'd learned a little bit about what they do, and they can, fairly dangerous, really. They can scrape in our carotid arteries. It tends to be like stringy fats, and they
Yeah.
can scrape them out. When I finally did get the appointment, you get given a sheet of paper, and the biggest risk to the procedure in big block letters at the bottom was risk of stroke if one of those pieces of fatty strings was to get away, that you could actually have a stroke. That was the big danger. And I had no, honestly, doc, I had no intention of having that surgery. But before, what caused it was my doctor sent me to an ultrasound, and the lady at the ultrasound was kind enough to tell me what she saw, which she said was 50 to 60% blood restriction in my carotid arteries. And I do believe that that type of cholesterol or restriction is particularly difficult. And so I really started taking large doses of Strauss heart drops. I was
Hmm.
scared, and I thought, well, I got 7 months till this appointment. And before that appointment with the vascular surgeon, they sent me, of course, in the same building for another ultrasound for the carotids. Well, I didn't ask that lady the results because it was the very day that my appointment for the doctor. So I went to see the doctor, and he said, uh, it's not bad for a man your age. They're approximately 25% blocked. So I was lucky in those 7 months. I'd reduced, according to them, reduced it by half. And
Oh,
I never let up on the heart drop since then, Doc. I'm obviously prone to this. And you've talked about prevention and preparation many times,
mm.
and I think that's the mode I'm in now. The other thing I'm doing, I don't know if I mentioned this to you, Doc, is taking large amounts of lemon juice every day now.
Yeah, you told me
It
that.
helps keep the body pH on the alkaline side, and there's just many benefits. I've come to believe that lemon is at least in the top 5 best medicinal herbs, and it's just good for so many things. And I've done it now. I was talking to Peter Strauss. I've drank 5 quarts in 8 days of concentrated lemon juice. So whatever's in me, I'm gonna get, Doc. I'm gonna get it.
I hope you didn't spike that lemonade with something.
No, just water, Doc. Just water. No, no. That's one vice I'm glad I don't have. I never did
Well,
like
that's good.
alcohol.
Lord knows we don't need any more vices, but
No, geez, no.
the high blood people, many people are under the misconception that high blood pressure just affects, it's somehow just related to the heart. Well, you
Right.
got arteries all over your body, just the arteries in your heart. You got arteries all over your body. It turns out that high blood pressure can damage blood vessels in the retina. You have arteries and veins. These organs and these body parts have to receive oxygen and nutrients. And the retina is that layer of tissue in the back part of the eye. It changes light and images that enter the eye into nerve signals. So it's really important. And then they're sent to the brain. Well, hypertension can lead or can cause damage to the retina of the eye. And it can also obstruct, the pressure is so great, You have
Yeah.
nerves throughout the eyes. It's a very delicate organ. So
Sure.
that pressure can cause vision to blur and difficulty seeing. So I just want to make the point. The bottom line point here is you got arteries everywhere. And by the way, as a sidebar, men who suffer from erectile dysfunction, right? They're taking that blue pill, and then they can perform, and they think, oh, okay, everything is all right. No, everything is not all right. To a point you made earlier, the medication that they're taking is addressing the symptom, which is their inability to perform because the artery that feeds the male genitalia is obstructed. It is atherosclerotic in nature. It has plaque in it. So they haven't corrected the problem necessarily. So again, you can take the heart drops not only for your heart, but from your eyes all the way down your body. There are arteries. So it's why I said to you many times, both in our personal conversations and on air, everybody, and I mean everybody, should be taking a product that's addressing your cardiovascular system. But this product, that the Strauss family designed it with all of those herbs to work synergistically, it not only benefits the heart, but it's benefiting many other systems of the body, the kidneys,
Yeah.
your brain, and so on, because all those arteries need to be clear and clean as much as possible. So it's a fabulous product. And as you know, Strauss is offering a 10% discount. If you type in the word truth, the promo code truth, TRUTH, you'll get 10% discount. And we encourage you to please try the product, especially if you have cardiovascular issues, one sort or another that we talk about on the show.
No, that's right, Doc. And the Strauss Heart Drops is the product, yeah, right, that you're talking about. And of course, I credit them for me still being here all those years ago. But I recall uh, almost 30 years ago when I was that very fortunate day I was introduced to the Strauss Heart Drops. Well, I too thought that high blood pressure was all heart related. And I went on the Strauss Heart Drops, and I just loved what happened to me. Everything from my hearing to, of course,
Aha,
increased blood flow, energy. It changed my life. But after
absolutely.
about 5 months, I met Jim Strauss, and I said, um, and I'd been to both fabulous two gentlemen I know, an iridologist, looks in your eye, and one of my medicine men, a reflexologist. They had both told me that I had some issue with my left kidney.
Ah,
And so when I said to Strauss, I didn't really tie it to blood pressure, doc. What issue? Who knows? I didn't know. This is back then when I hadn't been taught any of this stuff to start with. And I said to Jim Strauss, the only disappointment I had, Jim, with your heart drops is they lowered my blood pressure a few numbers, but not what I was looking for. He said, "Oh, you need my key stuff." Well, I didn't even know they had that at that point. I
ah,
had only taken heart drops, and of course, the rest of the story is I've had up until this myocarditis, I've had 28 or 9 years of 120/70, just as regular as clockwork blood pressure. So it is either the heart or the kidneys. Apparently, Western medicine can't tell us which it is. And if folks don't care, they just want to fix it, then, I always recommend the Strauss Heart Drops and the Strauss Kidney Support. Uh, this time, I do believe it was the kidney support that helped me again with the blood pressure because I was on the heart drops and the cardiocom for a month longer, just those two, not the kidney. And after 2 weeks on the taking the kidney, and to be honest with you, Doc, I just didn't think of it, which was crazy.
uh-huh.
But the 2 weeks I've been on the kidney, that's my blood pressure is now lowered to normal most of the time. So I'm sure going to keep taking that. Um, And I have taken large doses of these, all three formulas while I was under the weather, but you can't harm yourself doing that. Don't do that with your pharmaceuticals, for goodness sakes. You better take what the doctor prescribed. But with the natural ingredients, I just thought that. Uh, and you know what, Doc? I took the, I guess I took the minimum or suggested dose 28 or 9 years ago, and it took about 3 months till my heart rhythm went completely normal.
Uh-huh.
And this time I'm thinking it might happen faster because I'm taking so much more of
You're
the
taking,
product. I'm
yeah,
I'm
you're
I'm
taking a
just taking
therapeutic,
more.
you're taking a therapeutic dose, as we say. Um, Again, when you say these things, people saying, well, that's anecdotal evidence. However, your anecdotal evidence that you, by way of the narrative that you share with the audience, is grounded in science. We know there is not one scintilla of ambiguity or doubt uh, that high blood pressure affects the kidneys. Oh, really? Well, how is that? High blood pressure as it does, can constrict and narrow the blood vessels. I'm talking specifically about the arteries. Remember, I said arteries are throughout the body,
Yeah.
which eventually damages and weakens them through the body, including the kidneys. The narrowing uh, um, reduces blood flow. And if your kidney vessels are damaged, they may not work as properly.
Yeah.
And it also turns out that your kidneys are secreting the body is involved with certain hormones that regulate the blood pressure. It's called the RAAS system, renin angiotensin aldosterone system, where it can, if the blood pressure is too low, it can raise it. And if it's too high, it moderates it, brings
Right.
it down. That system can get out of whack when you have kidney disease. We now know that there's a direct positive correlation, meaning as one variable goes up, the other variable goes up. Kidney disease is correlated with heart disease. Heart disease is correlated with kidney disease.
Yeah.
So that's why it's good to take that combo, especially if you're already diagnosed with high blood pressure. You might want to consider working on your providing some structure and function support with the kidney support drops.
Sure. Yeah, and those heart drops, we've said this a lot of times, Doc, but everything connects in our body.
Ooh.
Everything connects, and I think that's evidenced by the 50,000 miles or so of veins and vessels inside us, that every single cell needs that blood. And so we are truly, everything does connect. That old rhyme, the knee bone connected to the thigh bone and all of that. Well, it,
Yeah.
it goes far beyond that, with the blood flow and the nerve energy and so forth. And um, and I will never be convinced otherwise that clean tissues and ridding your body of toxins are not the way to go. I just believe in
Uh-huh.
that so strongly.
Sure.
It's like anything else, Doc. Your car, if you don't change those filters and oil, it's not only going to go so far. Your furnace, your tractor, it's just maintenance, and I think it's just so important. And I'm grateful. I just know that I wished I'd had Strauss heart drops sooner for loved ones
Yeah.
and whatnot. But if I didn't know, I didn't know. But I'm
Well,
sure glad I know now, and I'll never quit taking them. I'll tell you that. I will
well,
never
no,
stop
nor
taking those heart drops.
well, if you call me up one day and say you're going to stop, I'm going to get a group of my friends together. We're going to come to Canada and do an intervention. Uh,
Okay.
I want to just say that high blood pressure is among the leading causes of kidney disease and kidney failure in the U.S. and Canada.
Wow.
High blood pressure and chronic disease, as I said, they are inextricably linked, in that high blood pressure can cause chronic kidney disease and vice versa. So I just can't stress that enough. It turns out that the high blood pressure is an independent risk factor for atherosclerosis, whereby the arteries serving the kidneys, as well as the heart and all the other organs in your body, become thickened, hardened, and narrowed by the buildup of plaque restricting the blood flow to the kidneys. So it is, all these systems are interdependent. They are interconnected. They're not independent of one another. Your point is well taken. That's why there's a paradigm in health and wellness. They call it, a whole, the whole systemic medicine, or the approach is to treat the whole body.
Right.
Holistic medicine is what it's called.
That's right.
Now, it's in functional medicine, they sort of take that approach and they get to the point that you made earlier. With functional medicine doctors, they're looking for the root cause or causes of the condition or disease to treat it and not just the symptoms. But these are different approaches to the practice of medicine. And what I learned over the years, Wayne, now especially in my nutrition practice, I reach for any tool that can help me with a particular client. So, believe it or not, I have clients, Wayne, you're going to find this hard to believe. They won't take a supplement, but they'll take the medications. And then I have clients who won't take the medications at all, but they'll take the supplements. Yeah. Sometimes you can do both. You can do nutraceuticals and pharmaceuticals together. Okay, you can help moderate symptoms while addressing the root cause down here. So it's whatever it takes for me to help a client, that's what I'll do. Sure. And it's what we're trying to do on the show is give people choices and options, and we give them many. By the way, that link on the Strauss Naturals website, straussnatural.com, there's a link that says Ask Dr. Garko. You can ask me a question there, and it goes right to my email, Dr. Garko at Strauss Naturals. And below, if you scroll down, are some articles that I have written, education pieces. There's one there on high blood pressure that I wrote, and we don't charge you for that. It's High Blood Pressure, the Silent Killer. Please take a look at that and read it. And if you have a question, you don't even have to be a question. If you have a comment, you want to connect with me, please do. I've had some people now across the country contacting me, Wayne. I'm on your show and I'm on other shows. I'm all over the United States now talking about Strauss, and people are contacting me, and they're looking for I don't know if it's the truth, but they're looking for a reliable, meaningful, trustworthy source, because there's so much hocus pocus out there. Yeah. And so I feel very privileged and honored to be able to answer these folks and address their questions. Go to straussnaturals.com, please.
Yeah, no, that's great, Doc. And it's great that you're doing that. I think, there's that saying, ignorance is bliss, but it really isn't when it comes to health. And the other thing I'm going to mention again, and I know I do almost anytime I'm on a show, because I just believe it's so important. And today, obesity is at epidemic proportions, really. They say close to half of us are overweight, or approximately half of us. And it's very tough today with the food choices and the genetically modified and some of the misleading things like low fat on certain products, where they've taken out the fat and added refined sugar, which is far worse for you, and no equipment really to handle it. But if anyone is going on an aggressive weight loss program and intends to lose a great deal of weight, and I would say, more than 30 pounds anyway. I mean, this is a good thing to do for anybody, anytime. But if a person was 300 pounds and they had a goal to be 200 pounds, just to pick numbers and easy arithmetic, and if they apparently the average person has up to 30 pounds of toxins in them. So let's say that even the 300-pound person had 30 pounds of toxins. And it's so important, in my opinion, Doc, to detox and cleanse our organs and tissues either before or during. I mean, you'll start your weight loss with the detox. Poison and toxins weigh something too, so you'll lose some weight without trying. But it's so important to do that during your weight loss program. Otherwise, if you reach your goal of 200 pounds and you didn't detox and cleanse your systems, you just went from 10% toxin when you were 300 pounds, 10% of your mass is toxin. You go to 200 pounds, now 15% of your mass is toxins. And we all know people that have lost a great deal of weight, didn't look good. I'm thinking of two of my dad's friends, that very uneven skin color, and they actually both died not so long afterward. And Strauss always said that that's the cause. You got to take the garbage out. And if we shrink in size, but don't do that, then a larger part of our body mass is toxins and poisons. And of course, at some point, it can overtake you and cause you harm or kill you. And so I just like to say that it's just not about weight loss. Don't leave all those toxins and poisons in your body, in your liver, in your kidneys, in your blood system. And it is free weight to lose. There's no effort to lose that weight, Doc. I found when people go on a just a liver cleanse, and there's many good ones out there, they can lose 5 to 10 pounds just on a liver cleanse alone. And again, the best weight to lose, it's the poisons, the garbage, the toxins that you're losing. And you will know that it's old and it's been in you for a while. I don't want to talk too much more about the bathroom, but you will know that there's bad stuff coming out of you. I just think that's so important, Doc.
Yeah, we talked about this the last time I was on, the connection between obesity and weight reduction, and then this issue of toxins. Based on my own independent review of the literature, and I've reported on this many times over the years, I've written a couple of articles on it, as a matter of fact, about the body burden that we carry around of these toxic chemicals. You know, when you look at the millions of metric tons that are dumped into the air, the water, the ground, the food chain every year, with from around the world globally, we're all walking around with a body burden. If you were to go and you can do this, and they can run a test to see what those metals might be. Toxic, heavy, it could be heavy metals, it could be any number, PCBs, it can be any number of things. You might be shocked and surprised. So we all carrying that body burden. And when you're obese and you're losing weight, you're releasing, as we talked about the last time, these toxins that the toxins tend to accumulate in fatty tissue. So this is kind of intriguing.
Yeah.
Nobody would ever put that together. So I'm glad you mentioned it again. And when you're losing weight, you're breaking down that fat, and also now you're releasing the toxins.
Yeah.
And so cleansing is good. The heart drops. By the way, your kidneys are a cleansing system.
Yes.
Your kidneys, your liver, your blood, your lungs. The kidneys are everything's passing through the blood's passing through those kidneys to filter the blood.
Yes.
So when you look at the heart, the kidney support drops, they are herbs in there that are helping with that process. So that's why in taking the kidney support drops and the heart drop together is important. And if you're doing weight reduction, you're obese or overweight, you might want to consider taking both those products too.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Back to one of my earlier comments, ignorance being bliss. I think there's probably never been a more important time to learn and pay attention to our own health, stay aware, use our own common sense, Doc, that the good Lord's given us, and and try and do more of the right things, but be conscious of all the chemicals in our lives now, conscious of so much of the soils that grow our foods are depleted. They don't have the minerals that nature intended, and therefore largely they're not going into the food, the fruit and vegetables. So we do need them, and so I think it's important for people to supplement today, vitamins and minerals. I believe I take them both, and I just do believe that's important. And Dr. Linus Pauling, over 100 years ago, won 2 Nobel Prizes uh, around vitamin C, both in proving the benefits of vitamin C and I guess proving, Doc, that deficiencies caused as much illness as things that we do to ourselves that isn't good. In other words, if you're not getting enough vitamin C or D or enough minerals, that he discovered and won the Nobel Prize for discovering that deficiencies, what we're not getting, can cause us more harm than things that we negative things that we do to ourselves, smoking or not exercising.
Right.
So it's very
So
important.
yeah, you're what you're driving at here. We usually talk about not only the deficiencies of nutrients, micronutrients like vitamins and minerals and some, whatnot, but you also have deficiency, and then you have excess, right? Too much of something, too little of something.
Yeah.
The notion of moderation. This is a principle, the golden rule, moderation. Uh, People think, well, moderation. They seem sometimes to equate that with not taking a stand or being in the middle, playing it safe. Now, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the balance. The word balance. Our body was designed to, and it works hard to keep us in balance in spite of ourselves.
Yeah.
It really does work hard. It's evolution. We are genetically coded to maintain homeostasis, the right amount of blood pressure, the right amount of acidity or alkalinity in the body.
Yeah.
I can go on and on. We continually we these are self-inflicted errors and wounds that we impose on ourselves by our diet and our lifestyle. So it's deficiency and excess. Too much, too little. We want to be somewhere in the middle and try to find balance.
Yeah.
It's hard, even moderation in moderation, I should say. It's easy for me to say. It's hard to do. But we're human, and we're trying to work our way through this maze of life, and figure things out. And when I listen to you talk, one of the advantages of a person sharing their personal experience is that it is personal, and it's not intended and it's not obstructed with a bunch of jargon and science and all that, which I love the science.
Yep.
But listening to an honest narrative, someone telling their story, is very powerful because people can relate to that, Wayne.
Right.
So
Right.
never think that you sharing your narrative is a waste of time. In fact, it's not. It is essential in trying to help people. They can relate to that, and they get it. So I appreciate what you share on the show with the audience. And you're putting yourself out there. Not many people are inclined to say, well, I had this problem, I had that problem. You even ask some people, how's the weather? Oh, it's just fine. And they got a hurricane that's right over their left shoulder. They don't even want to admit they live in a place where there's bad weather, let alone they got issues with their body.
Right.
So that's human nature. I get it. But
You're right, Doc, and it was always funny. I did about 350 years ago, 350 talks or health talks, lectures to groups of people around Ontario, mostly. And I would ask, well, the group was together, any questions, and there might be one or two. And then I'd thank everyone from coming. And if you wanted to see me about anything else, you just come on up. And then there'd be a whole bunch of people that would come up, and they were shy about their issues. Even I remember a lady come up to me and say, "Well, I've got arthritis in my knees," and they're just, I guess, embarrassed to talk about it in front of other people, but
Yeah,
I think that, and of course, it's what I'm trying to do, Doc, I'm trying for people to relate to me. The heart disease and stroke is their number one killer, and every Schedule A disease is on the rise, really. And so I hope people do relate. If you have angina, or you have restricted blood flow in your arteries, and you're lacking energy, like I was many years ago as a much younger man, it's not fun. I got to a point, Doc, before the lucky day of discovering the Strauss heart drops, where my very favorite thing in life to this day is to throw a football. It's my favorite thing to do. And I loved, with my sons and their buddies, I would quarterback for both teams. I was a quarterback in football, and I had as much fun as the kids did, or maybe more fun. And when it came to a point, Doc, where they'd be on the beach and say, "Dad, why don't you come down? We're playing football." I wanted to in my heart, but I didn't have it in me, believe it or not. My very favorite thing to do, I just didn't
I
have the
know.
energy. It took my will away. Uh,
Yep.
I used to sit, Doc, and hope the phone didn't ring, and on weekends that no one knocked on the door or rang the phone. Uh, so I want people to know out there that I can relate. I'm not just telling stories from a book. It's not very nice. And this was in my 30s, Doc. So it was, I when I read about the earlobe crease, which is the
Right.
best predictor of clogged arteries, and I had that in each ear, and looked at some of my grandfather and uncle, and they had the crease and died young. I really thought I was going to break the family record and die the youngest from this stuff. So,
Wow.
you have no idea the gratitude that I have that painlessly, Doc, painlessly, just taking these liquid formulas. In the old days, it was tea for the most part. Most of them were teas, but these formulas were just so safe and effective. I will be forever grateful, I'll tell you, because no surgeries. I
Uh-huh.
haven't been on any pills. Haven't had any issues with any pills because I haven't taken any pills. And really, I think I'm the luckiest guy in the world. So,
Well,
um,
I know you're grateful. You've expressed that to me in our personal conversations. Gratitude. Some people can, Wayne, you've lived long enough to know, some people can learn from adversity, they can learn from their mistakes,
yeah,
others, not so much. But you mentioned that earlobe on, just share with the audience what Wayne's referring to. If you on your earlobe, sometimes you'll see creases on some people. That is called Frank Farnk Frank's sign. Uh, Many studies link that diagonal stroke, that crease on one or both of the ears, with a higher risk of cardiovascular conditions such as stroke and heart attack. So that earlobe crease has a history, and it's called Frank's sign. It goes. I won't get into the whole story of it, but it was a guy named Doc Frank, if you want to know. Dr. Sander T. Frank was his name. He first observed this crease in 20 patients under 60 who had chest pain, angina, and proven coronary artery blockages. So he published an article in the Journal, New England Journal of Medicine, in 1973, believe it or not.
yeah, yeah,
And he described the possible association of the earlobe crease, that diagonal crease, with
yeah.
heart disease. So
Well,
it's
then
not,
they proved at Harvard Medical, Doc, that it was not only the best predictor of restricted blood flow in the arteries, but better than all of the other predictors put together, like blood cholesterol, triglycerides, environment,
uh-huh.
smoking, and all obesity. Uh, you can Google Frank's crease or Frank's sign. I've done Frank's crease, Crease, and you'll see a picture of an earlobe with the crease. When I read that, it was years before I heard of Strauss, and it was before I started having any issues, Doc. And I looked in the mirror and said, "Oh, oh." And as I say, looked at my grandfather and my uncle and a couple of aunts, and so I kind of knew trouble was coming before it even came, and
Uh-huh.
I didn't do anything about it. But um, yeah, so it was Harvard, and then in Denmark in 2008, they did a major study with apparently thousands of people, and came up with the same results. So I know a lot of ladies will mistake it for wearing the earrings, Doc, but
Yeah,
it's
no.
not the same. You'll see that, as you say, it's generally diagonal on the earlobe, and so that's a sign, folks, to check. And I sure had it. It's a process, isn't it, Doc? You don't eat the Twinkie or the ice cream cone and your arteries clog up today. It's a process, like most everything else.
Yeah, and just because you have those crease, you might have a crease on one or both of the earlobes, doesn't necessarily mean you're going to vapor lock someday or have a
Right.
stroke. It doesn't mean that.
Right.
Um, you can, as I say, practice prevention and preparation simultaneously. You by taking care of your cardiovascular system, you can live a long life without heart disease or high blood pressure, or any of those cardiac or cardio related conditions.
Yeah.
So that's why the heart drops are so important. If you go to StraussNaturals.com, type in the word truth, TRUTH, you can get a 10% discount. And you also ask Dr. Garko link, click on that, ask me a question, make a comment, and I'll respond to you. Go to my email. And if you scroll down on that page, you'll see some articles I've written. You can read those. They're well referenced and researched. Take a look at those. They're educational in nature, and when those are offered to you to help in Strauss's efforts to help you take charge of your health and wellness.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It's we I used to start out every talk, Doc, by saying to the folks that came out, if your doctor told you to go into the barn, grab a pitchfork and eat you know what, you'd do it, and everybody'd laugh. I said, no, you'd do it, wouldn't you? And we joke around like that, but I just so strongly believe that we're best to be a part of our own health and health choices, Doc. I've even said to people, listen, when the party's over, you go in the box by yourself. The doctor won't be there with you. The pharmaceutical people won't be there. I won't be there. You go by yourself. So given it's our most important part of our life is our health and well-being, we should be a part of it. And if people are on pharmaceuticals, for goodness sakes, read the paperwork that you get. It'll tell you the potential side effects or harmful side effects, because if you're suffering any of them, you want to know so you can tell your doctor, and he or she might change the type of pill, change the dosage. That's up to the doctor. But if you don't know and you're suffering any of them, I don't know what to say. You could be in serious trouble. So for sure, be a part of your own health care. And it can't hurt. Knowledge never hurts.
There's some other sort of peculiar correlations. Speaking of earlobe crease, male pattern baldness is another factor that's correlated with heart disease. So you have the diagonal earlobe crease, male pattern baldness, xanthomia, alone or in combination, accompanied with increased risk of coronary heart disease and myocardial infarction, which is a fancy way of saying heart attack. Uh, you know, uh, Again, your point's well taken.
I didn't know
Uh,
that, Doc. I thought I was just still growing, and I was growing through my hair. I didn't
no,
know that.
no, that's not, no, man. That's not what's going on.
I guess that's why they said I was still 6'1". Here I was thinking I was growing right through my hair. I guess not.
No, man, that's not, I'm sorry. That's
Yeah.
not what, I,
Well, folks, we've come just
yeah.
about to the end of the show again. Thank you for listening in, and I hope you heard something maybe you've never heard before today, or picked up a healthy tip. Uh, you can go to the StraussNaturals.com website. You can click on Ask Dr. Garko, and trust me, he is a very, very knowledgeable, educated man. and he's all about the truth, as I am. Um, you can put in the coupon code TRUTH, the word truth, get an automatic 10% savings on your order. You can call Strauss toll free at 1-866-478-2873. Some wonderful ladies there will help you and talk with you. And thank you again for joining us. I hope you can come back and join us next week. Thanks to my great guest, Dr. Michael Garko. Always a pleasure to be with you, my friend. And thank you for the wisdom you've shared with us today. Until then, folks, be well and may God bless. Thanks for being with us today.